Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishupad Paramahangsa Bhurvidakacharya Asadhara Sadushi Shriman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swamiraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hariva Slava Zabrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Grangi Om Agana Tumanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Hayam Tadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shiguro Shiyuta Parakamalam Shigurum Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Sahagana Lalita Shah Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Drubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1, Chapter 10, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka, Text 28. Nunam Vrata Snana Huta Dineshwaraha Samarchito Yasya Grihita Panibi Pibanti Yak Sakya Dharmam Ritam Rahur Rajastriya Samud Muhur Yad Ashayaha Nunam Rata Snana Huta Dineshwara Samarchito Yasya Grihita Panivi Pibanti Yak Sakya Ramritam Muhur Rajastriya Samu Muhur Yad Ashayaha Ladies, Nunam, certainly in the previous birth, Rata, vow, Snana, bath, Hutam, sacrifice in the fire, Adina, by all these, Ishvaraha, the personality of Godhead, Samarchita, perfectly worshipped. He, certainly, Asya, his, Grihita Panibi, by the married wives, Pibati, relishes, Ya, those who, Saki, O friend, Adara Amritam, the nectar from his lips, Muhu, again and again, Rajastriya, the damsels of Brajabhumi, Samumuhu, often fainted, yet Ashaya, expecting to be favored in that way. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O friends, just think of his wives, whose hands he has accepted, how they must have undergone vows, baths, fire sacrifices, and perfect worship of the Lord of the universe to constantly relish now the nectar from his lips by kissing. The damsels of Brajabhumi would often faint just by expecting such favors. Report. Religious rites prescribed in the Vedic scriptures, are meant to purify the mundane qualities of the conditioned souls, to enable them to be gradually promoted to the stage of rendering transcendental service unto the Supreme Lord. Attainment of this stage of pure spiritual life is the highest perfection, and this stage is called Swarup, or the factual identity of the living being. Liberation means renovation of the stage of Swarup. In that perfect stage of Swarup, the living being is established in 5 phases of loving service, one of which is the stage of Madhurya Rasa, or the humor of conjugal love. The Lord is always perfect in himself, and thus he has no hankering for himself. He, however, becomes a master, a friend, a son, or a husband to fulfill the intense love of the devotee concerned. Herein 2 classes of devotees of the Lord are mentioned in the stage of conjugal love. One is Swakiya and the other is Parakiya. Both of them are in conjugal love with the personality of Godhead, Krishna. The queens of Dwarka were Swakiya, or duly married wives, but the damsels of Braj were young friends of the Lord while he was unmarried. The Lord stayed at Vrindavan till the age of 16, and his friendly relations with the neighboring girls were in terms of Parakiya. These girls, as well as the queens, underwent severe penances by taking vows, bathing, and offering sacrifices in the fire, as prescribed in the scriptures. The rites, as they are not end in themselves, nor are fruitive activities, culture of knowledge, or perfection of mystic powers, ends in themselves. They are all meant to attain to the highest stage of Swarup, to render constitutional transcendental service to the Lord. Each and every living being has his individual position, and one of the above-mentioned 5 different kinds of reciprocating means with the Lord. And in one's pure spiritual form of Swarup, the relation becomes manifest without mundane affinity. The kissing of the Lord, either by his wives or his young girlfriends, who aspire to have Krishna as their fiancé, is not one of any mundane, perverted quality. Had such things been mundane, a liberated soul like Shukadev would not have taken the trouble to relish them. Nor would Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have been inclined to participate in those subjects after renouncing worldly life. The stage is earned after many lives of penance. Nunam vrata snanam huta dineshvaraha samarchito yasya grihita panivi pibati yak sakya da ramritam muhur rajastriya samu muhur yat ashayaha. Oh, my friend, just think of those wives whose hands he has accepted, how they must have undergone vows, baths, fire sacrifices, and perfect worship of the Lord of the universe, constantly relish now the nectar from his lips by kissing. The damsels of Brajabhumi would often faint just by expecting such favors. Om Agyanantimanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shinivadi Paskadyade Sadarane. Either one is progressing towards self-realization, or one is becoming degraded. The activities of devotional service, generally speaking, are performed and one becomes elevated. But it's possible to perform the activities of devotional service and become degraded also. So one has to understand what's the difference between degradation and elevation. Now, the reason why we want to become elevated is because by becoming elevated, we become happier. We become more aware of what the true position of happiness is. And when we become degraded, then we become inclined to activities which will make us unhappy. And since the aim of life actually is to become happy, we should find out what activities will make us happy and which activities will make us unhappy. In the Varna and Ashram system, it's recognized that there are three modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. And everyone has come in contact with the body, as Krishna said, Sattvam Rajas Tamayiti Guna Prakriti Sambhava Divananti Mahavaho Dehe Dehinam Avyam. The material body consists of three modes. It doesn't. If we look in the mirror, we don't see three modes. We just see something beautiful. But there are actually, for one who is trained in knowledge, for instance, when Shukadeva Goswami, he walked into the assembly where Maharaj Parikshit was on the bank of the Ganges, fasting till death, surrounded by many sages from the whole universe. Then at once, by simply looking at him, they understood that he was transcendental. They understood physiognomy. Just by looking at someone, they could understand where his consciousness was. But we're not trained in that. Matter of fact, we're not trained in anything in the material world of any use. Some use, but most of it is misuse. Matter of fact, people are trained how to use a fork and knife. Now, the knife is not really very important. Generally, the fork would not be very important, unless you're eating meat. Since people are meat eaters, and generally they don't eat meat with their hands unless it's a hamburger. They have to learn how to use a fork and knife. But such training is for people of the lowest category. It's not really elevation, it's degradation. Of course, soup is good to have a spoon, unless you just drink the soup. But anyhow, so generally what's needed is your hands and maybe a spoon sometimes. But people who think they're making advancement, matter of fact, they think we're becoming degraded by using our hands to eat. They don't realize that when you use your hands to eat, you can actually feel the texture of the food, you can understand what the temperature of the food is, and immediately it sends signals to your brain, which sends it to your digestive system to be prepared what's coming. Otherwise, people aren't prepared for anything. They walk around the street eating. They talk while they're eating. Do so many things while they're not even aware of what they're eating. No wonder they'll take any kind of medicine because they're just unaware. They're unconscious in their mode of ignorance. Nor do they care. Matter of fact, they'll get angry if you tell them it's good to. Some people will get angry. They'll think you're crazy if you tell them that it's good to eat with your hands. Don't you realize there's bacteria on the hands? As if all the bacteria is our worst enemy. We got to kill everything. we'll be the last thing alive on the earth. Then we won't have any threats from anyone. So this is the vision of materialists, but actually coming trained is to get out of ignorance, to see things properly. And therefore, there are some activities that are prescribed by Manu Samhita for those in the mode of ignorance, for those in the mode of passion, and even for those in the mode of goodness. And there are 6 Puranas. 6 Puranas for those in the mode of ignorance, 6 Puranas for those in the mode of passion, 6 Puranas in the mode of goodness. All meant to help us do what? Actually, what are the Shudras doing? What are the Vaishyas doing? What are the Kshatriyas doing? And what are the Brahmanas doing that make them different from anyone else? What's the big difference? The difference is that the Shudras, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, and the Brahmanas, they're all acting with the final result of Yagya Vishnu. When the farmers grow their produce, of course, it's so that they can offer it to Vishnu. And the society in general is prosperous because the Kshatriyas arrange to have sacrifices by which the grains, the gold, whatever resources are offered to Vishnu in this age, or in previous ages especially. That everyone was acting for the yagya, and therefore the rains would come. Anad bhavati bhutani parjana ana sambhava jagna bhavati parjano yagya karma samudbhava. That all living entities, they subsist on food grains, which are produced from rain, and rain comes from sacrifice. So sacrifice, yagya vai Vishnu, is what the whole society is supposed to be doing, sacrificing for Vishnu. But nete vidu swartikatim vi Vishnu. They don't know that the aim of life is to reach Vishnu, or yagya sistasna, what was that? Jagnat tat karmano natra loko yang karma bandhanai tararpam apikantiya mukta sangha samachara. That work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work binds one to the material world. Perform prescribed duties for his satisfaction, O son of Kunti, and this way you remain unattached and free from bondage. So sacrifice means that inherent within the idea of sacrifice is that everything belongs to Vishnu. And as soon as we forget that everything belongs to Vishnu, or as long as we think that something belongs to someone other than Vishnu, then it is said that Maya, she's right there. What is that? Adhikar. That Krishna Bahir Mukha Bhojavancha Tare, Nikata Tare, Japati Adare. As soon as we forget that, then Maya slaps us down. What is that slap? Of course, most of us have never met Maya personally, and she didn't hit us across the face. It means we're put into the bodily concept of life. Now, being that we've been in the bodily concept of life since time immemorial, we're not very much concerned about that. As long as there's something to eat, place to sleep, for some people romance, whatever, then being in the bodily concept of life is good. It's enjoyable. It's what we're looking for. We want to increase the bodily concept of life, make it better, make it more enjoyable, more attractive. But this is considered to be degradation for the self, because then the master becomes Trivida Narakasyedam Dwaram Nashitam Atmanaha Kama Krodha Tata Lobas Tasmat Etam Tram Tride. There are 3 gates leading to hell: lust, anger, greed. Every sane person should become freed from these 3 modes because they lead to the degradation of the self. In other words, we're spirit souls. We're supposed to be blissful, fully conscious, eternally. And what a degraded condition we're in now. Bliss is the extra scoop of ice cream. That's where we've come to. Never mind, I have to die. Never mind I'm growing old and becoming diseased. Never mind I have to take birth again. Never mind any of these things. That ice cream makes me satisfied and happy. My life is perfect. Therefore, whatever position one is in, the idea is that there should be some consciousness, and whatever we're doing, we're sacrificing for Vishnu. Otherwise, one can perform vana in ashram, naishkarimim apyachuta, bhavavarjitam nishobhyate jnanam alam arajanam, kutakpana shasvata bhadram ishvare, nacharpitam karma nitad in arpita, yet apyakaranam. That knowledge of self-realization, even free from all material affinity, does not look very well if devoid of conception of the infallible. Krishna, by the way. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they're not utilized for the devotional service to the Lord? So varnashram is necessary for those in the Bali concept of life, but it's not sufficient. It won't do it. Daivi Varnashram means that one is performing Varnashram in order to satisfy Krishna. Obviously, there are persons who have to serve in some capacity. As a matter of fact, practically everyone is Shudra nowadays, if they're elevated by good fortune. And the rest are so-called Vaishyas. But actually, there are hardly any Shudras. They're all Mudhas and a lot of Naradamas. So it's pretty rare to find a good Shudra Vaishya. But they're engaged, Shudras and Vaishyas are engaged in fruitive activities. For Krishna, but if they're not done for Krishna, they're not very helpful. They're better than the Vikarmis, the Mudhas and the Naradamas, or either interested in sense gratification or simply expanding sinful life. But even the so-called Shudras and the Vaishyas, if not Krishna conscious, they're also Shramam Eva Hi Kevalam. They're wasting their time. Swanaksudustita Dharma, Vishvakseta Katastu Yat, Napadya Ratim, Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam. Duties performed, even if they're done very nicely, if they're not done for Krishna, they're simply considered a waste of time. And what to speak of the Kshatriyas and the Brahmins, they're also more elevated, supposedly, in the material concept of life, or in the modes of ignorance or goodness and passion. But if they're not utilized in the service of Krishna, they also are not look very good. They're not very good. Therefore, if we want to become elevated, either we accept parts of Varna and Ashram. Why do we only accept parts of Varna and Ashram at the present time? For instance, we recognize that there are men and women, which is becoming more or less contested nowadays, that there are two sexes. Normally there are two sexes, men and women, and men are considered like butter and women are considered like fire, and they should become separate, unless you want to throw yourself into the sacrifice. So we recognize as men and women, and then we even go further sometimes. There are men who are married, and there are men who are not married. But that, at least, we're trying to have a society that has such distinctions. Not that we have brahmastras, combinations of brahmacharis and grihastas. And we have grihastas, they only have one wife, eka pativrata. They've made a vow to accept only one wife and 25 girlfriends. And sannyas, or vanaprastha. Vanaprastha means to go in your camp or to the woods for a vacation, to a park for a vacation. That's vanaprastha. And sannyas means you renounce one wife to get another one. So this is not civilization. This is not elevation. This is simply following the whims of the senses and the mental concoctions. Therefore, this process of chanting Hare Krishna is what's recommended in this age, but there's a science to chanting Hare Krishna also. Otherwise, we can chant Hare Krishna and remain attached to our fruitive activities and our mental speculation. And it's just like, as that story goes, trying to row the boat, but not lifting the anchor. So we also have to recognize that fruitive activities, desiring better future for ourselves or worrying about what the future for ourselves will be, and mental speculation, looking at any object and not remembering it's Krishna and trying to figure out what to do with it, what my duty to enjoy my senses with it is, or to get liberated from it. These things are not very productive. So side by side with chanting Hare Krishna, there has to be devotional service devoid of fruitive desires and mental speculation in Krishna consciousness. Therefore it says that if we follow the 5 powerful processes, namely chanting the holy names, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, serving the deities, living in a holy place, or serving the devotees, if it's done with concentration and devotion, one can experience bhava or ecstasy. And it's that bhava and ecstasy that inspires us to give up fruitive activities and mental speculation. Otherwise, if we don't experience ecstasy, why will we give these things up? It's the only happiness we have. For those who are in the lowest modes, their happiness is sense gratification. And the higher modes, one gets pleasure from mental speculation. But still, one should try to perform the activities of devotional service, try to hear and understand things properly. It's not difficult, it's not complicated. We're complicated. Therefore, to give up sense gratification, fruitive activities, and mental speculation seems very complicated, very profound, very philosophical. That I'm not this body. I shouldn't try to simply gratify my senses and forget Krishna. Forget who I am. Merge into my bodily concept of life and do my activities whimsically to gratify my senses and speculate what's the best way of doing it or how to get out of this entanglement without coming back to Krishna. In any case, here we find the queens, they did so many activities. As it says that Aho bhata swapacho to garyan yajivrigrhe vartate namatubhyam tapus tapaste shashnor arya brahmanuchara ye grinanti ye te. That how wonderful it is just by chanting the holy name, or that swapacho cho garyan, that even a Chandala who's chanting the holy name, he's getting all the results, or he must have actually, have bathed in the holy places, performed sacrifice, been celibate, performed austerities. Otherwise, he wouldn't come to the platform chanting Hare Krishna. Now we ourselves, we think, wow, that's fantastic. I don't know how many holy places I bathed in my past lifetime. I haven't bathed in that many this time. As far as austerity, sometimes we don't eat grains on Ekadasi. I've been a vegetarian for some time. It's amazing. That's why I can chant Hare Krishna. Not exactly. When we chant Hare Krishna, then we'll be in Krishna consciousness. When we actually chant Hare Krishna. Well, we're learning, we're practicing how to chant Hare Krishna, so one day we can actually chant Hare Krishna. Actually chant, oh, the energy of the Lord, oh, the Supreme Lord, kindly engage me in loving service. not with my fingers crossed while I'm chanting japa. Oh, Krishna. Don't engage me too much in loving service. I may forget all my material objectives, all my anxieties. So we're practicing. Gradually get out of our anxieties, gradually become sincere when we're chanting, to actually ask Krishna just one time, full sincerity, to actually engage me when we know what loving service is, to actually engage us ourselves, Krishna engage us in it. Right now we're discovering what loving service is. And the more we discover it, the more we can ask Krishna for it. We can't ask Krishna for something we have no idea. Well, maybe sometimes people, they have someone comes around with a bag and they say for $5, it's a mystery bag. And for $5 you can find out what's inside. So more or less that's what we're doing. We're chanting Hare Krishna. It's a mystery what pure devotional service is. And hopefully we're becoming inspired enough to find out what it really is. Therefore we go through the process. But we should be inquisitive enough and actually submissive enough that we do something about it to find out what it is. If we're not inquisitive, if we're not experiencing Krishna consciousness, then why will we become more and more inquisitive about it? If every day we just chant, shnik, shnik, ram, ram, day, day, where's the inquisitiveness? If we're doing our service mechanically or unconsciously, how inquisitive are we? How much have we really heard and tried to find out what pure devotional service is really like? So Krishna consciousness has to be conscious along with Krishna has to be there. We have to be conscious with Krishna in our everyday lives, not only during sadhana, but whatever we're doing, we should be conscious. And ultimately conscious of Krishna. Just being conscious will not help us very much. Of course, it's better to be conscious, especially when you're cooking, so you don't fall into the pot. But when we're cooking, we should do it for Krishna too. And therefore, gradually one can come to become elevated in Krishna consciousness. And if we put the iron in the fire, it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And then gradually we become conscious of Krishna. We'll become conscious of ourselves and everyone else also. Everything else. And then one day we'll realize who we actually are. Otherwise, this illusory existence, this dream that we're having now, or we could say a nightmare for most of us. We'll wake up and discover how wonderful things actually are in Krishna consciousness and how horrible things are in the illusory consciousness. So the queens realized that. They bathed in the holy places, but undoubtedly they didn't just bathe or perform sacrifice. They did it like this, the gopis. They perform katyayani vrata, but for Krishna, to get Krishna as a husband. They bathed in the holy place, the Ganges, remembering that this is Krishna. They did everything in Krishna consciousness, but they did things which were positive, bringing one not only to the mode of goodness, but also to pure consciousness of Krishna. They didn't go to McDonald's and offer the McDonald's to Krishna. They didn't have swimming contests, meets in the Jamuna every day. No, they bathed in order to because that's part of the process of purification. Get rid of the dirt internally and externally. So these tapa, yagya, whatever, these are all meant for a purification, externally and internally, but ultimately to remember Krishna, to help us in a position where we can remember Krishna more easily. That's the most important thing. Therefore, sadhana bhakti is only two things. Smarta vyaktsadatam vishnur, vismartak chatuna kinchit, sarva vidi nisedya asyura, evaya eva kinkara. Eva yor eva kinkara. Sadhana bhakti simply means to always remember Krishna and never forget him. everyone is able to perform that, always remember Krishna, never forget him, then all the other rules and regulations are automatically performed. So we have such a nice process, and we have activities that will help us remember Krishna, and we stick to those activities and try to perform them in Krishna consciousness, then our lives will become successful, and one day we'll meet Krishna face to face and understand who we actually are. And our lives will actually have some real success. And we'll wake up to a glorious existence. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions, comments? We have a microphone. Someone's actually raising their hand. We don't have a mic.
No, it's disappeared yesterday.
Okay, come clean. Who stole the mic? Check everyone's pillows. See if the mic is underneath their pillow. How can anyone steal a microphone, especially from the temple? Look in the kitchen, maybe someone tried to. Okay,
I was searching yesterday in the evening, but I couldn't find it.
Could it be one of these here? There's so many microphones here.
Yeah, so many. There's one not wireless. They're all wired, you see. We need wireless.
Okay, might as well ask the question. Anyhow, after everyone leaves, you can come back and put the microphone back where you took it. Yes. Yes, Rishabh? Why is it so hard in this age to be just conscious? Because of oh, here we go. So snuck in and returned it when we weren't looking. You might as well repeat it on the microphone.
Hare Krishna. Mike, you said, Maharaj, that we have to be conscious before we become Krishna conscious.
I didn't say that. I said we have to become conscious and Krishna conscious.
Okay, we have to become conscious and then Krishna conscious.
No, I didn't say then. We have to be conscious and Krishna conscious.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's not like one after another. It's
No, even anyone. We have to become conscious of the fact that we should be Krishna conscious.
So it's not kind of a connected, first be conscious and then...
We're unconscious. We're not going to be able to become conscious. But at least we should try to become Krishna conscious. Then gradually we become conscious too.
So you can be Krishna conscious even if you're not conscious?
No. You can try to become Krishna conscious by trying to become conscious of Krishna.
Okay, and then consciousness will come by itself.
They come, just like when the sun comes. If you're in the darkness of the night, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
But when the sun comes up, automatically you can see the sun and everything else. So we become conscious of Krishna, we automatically become conscious of everything. And if you try to become conscious of everything without becoming Krishna conscious, you're wasting your time. Or any attempt to become conscious of anything implies becoming more Krishna conscious.
Okay, in that sense. Because this consciousness, for me, it seems like it means a mode of goodness.
Well, that's all right, but the mode of goodness without Krishna consciousness, Naishkarmyam apyachuta varjitam, nishobhyate jnanam alama aranjanam, niranjanam. It doesn't look very good, being the mode of goodness without Krishna. How do you come to the mode of goodness without Krishna? Without following Krishna's instructions, at least.
Not possible.
If we wash our hands before we eat, it's because Prabhupada told us to do it. Because that's what Krishna says we should do it. So we're doing it because Krishna tells us. Now, if we're unconscious when we're doing it, although we're following the instructions, we're unconscious. That's called karma yoga. And we start becoming conscious of Krishna when we're doing it, that's called jnana yoga. When we actually become conscious of Krishna, that's called bhakti yoga.
Yeah, because it seems to me that, at least in my practice, I'm constantly failing at the first step of being just regulated.
Well, that's good. At least you know what you have to improve. So just improve it a little bit and you're making progress. Not that, if you weigh 320 kilos and someone says you should lose some weight, you get insulted. Well, that's not good. Now you know what your problem is, so do something about it. And if you do something about it, gradually make progress. So at least we know what we're doing wrong. Most people think they're doing everything right. So that's the bigger problem.
As you said, Maharaj, like we are doing karma yoga, jnana yoga, but we are not doing bhakti yoga. We think
I didn't say we're not doing bhakti yoga.
We can confuse karma yoga for bhakti yoga.
No, well, bhakti yoga is a consciousness. Devotional service is what we're trying to do so we can come to the platform of pure devotion. So we're trying to do things to please Krishna, and once in a while we might even do something to please him. And Krishna is very pleased, and he reciprocates there's a big reciprocation. But generally speaking, for most of us during the day, we're doing things, hopefully, which are in devotional service, but we're pretty unconscious of the fact that we're doing for Krishna. But we're doing it under some authority.
Yeah.
So we have some feeling that we're doing the right thing, but we're not conscious. And sometimes when we're a little elevated, then we try to see how things are related to Krishna. And we understand we're doing this because Krishna wants us to do it. And this is Krishna's energy. So we have some more consciousness in the activity. So that's jnana yoga. And when we're doing it to please Krishna, that's called bhakti yoga. So there's no impediment. It's not like I have to do it unconscious or I have to do it just understanding things properly. No, when we actually think, we reach the conclusion, I should do this to please Krishna, that's called bhakti yoga. Everything here belongs to Krishna. Everyone is Krishna's servant. I'm Krishna's servant. Krishna wants everyone to become conscious of him, to make progress in devotional service. So I should do something to serve Krishna, to please him. That's bhakti yoga. So we can immediately do something bhakti yoga. And then it says if we do that, especially the 5 powerful processes, we can experience ecstasy. Krishna will reciprocate. And we become conscious of Krishna more than we usually are. We'll experience some ecstasy in this association.
And Maharaj, you didn't speak about jnana yoga. Is that same as bhakti then?
I just said jnana yoga. Jnana yoga is a path.
But
Karma yoga is a path leading to jnana yoga, which is the path leading to bhakti yoga. Unless we understand how everything belongs to Krishna, then I'm also a spiritual being, and the Krishna is in my heart, giving me intelligence. The Shastras are his words. Krishna is the deity. Unless we have knowledge, then why will we do anything to please him? People that don't know anything about Krishna don't do anything to please him. The more knowledge we have, the more real knowledge we have, the more likely is we'll do something to please him.
And Maharaj, dhyana yoga?
Jnana yoga means to understand things properly.
Not jnana, but the dhyana.
Dhyana.
Dhyana, like...
means when we remember Krishna.
Yes, is that different than bhakti?
It's a stage leading to bhakti.
Okay.
In other words, if we recognize everything belongs to Krishna, and we utilize whatever we have within our realm of influence, we utilize that for Krishna, and we do it, then naturally we remember Krishna. But if we do it to please Krishna, then that's bhakti. That's a stage higher than meditation. We may remember Krishna, just like we see the deities, we remember Krishna, but we should try to do something to please them. When we see the deity, that's also dhyana if we're focusing our mind on deity. But we should think, now let me do something to please them, like chant Hare Krishna or something.
Wow, thank you for these subtle differences. Thank you.
Well, you have to thank them. I'm just repeating what they said. Anything else? Hvala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande. We didn't get a garland today. What happened? Did the flowers stop growing?
Kako to onda nije bilo?
Ne znam, možda ga neko odnio.
On su pa u isti ekipi.
Neko Koga hodně možda kuć, Balaram,